Welcome back to the 40 Portal. I'm Catherine Zach, and I have to say, I am blown away by your response to the first episode. I'm blown away, but I'm actually not surprised because what is happening is exactly what I hoped in my wildest dreams might happen, that you would become a part of the 40 Portal conversation too. And you are. You are reaching out, you are leaving comments, you are leaving reviews, you're sending me notes like, I feel like I'm a fly on the wall for this very juicy conversation, and I am happy to be here. The cannabis moms are enjoying these episodes in the tub and feeling the vibes. And Kate's creativity, her clarity, her confidence. I've had so many people message me to say, 44 sounds awesome. And I can't wait to be there too. And just the conversation that we're having in the 40 Portal, it's powerful, it's satisfying, it's validating. That's what you're telling me. And I agree. Yes to all of it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your comments, your reviews, your feedback. And P.S., I need your wisdom and I need your questions. Please submit your own words to the 40 Portal at the40portal.com/submit so that your bit of the conversation, what you have to add specifically, can anchor an upcoming episode of the podcast. Okay, today I am talking with Clara Artschwager. She is a coach, a writer, and one of my dearest friends. Clara and I met 4 years ago. And was it 4? Yes, it was 4. She wasn't married yet. She didn't have kids. We clicked on work stuff. We're both coaches. We're both creative entrepreneurs. We're both writers. And since then, we've walked through many portals together. Clara got married. She became a mom too. We both turned 40 last year. And our friendship has grown with us through the portals. And also, I love that our friendship is mostly based in voice memos, which feel like the superpower of elder millennial women in 2026. But there's also like a timeless quality to that type of communication. Like I can picture us as like 2 women in the 90s, like in our kitchens, wrapped around in the cord of the phone, kind of having it like hitched between our shoulder and our ear. That's something that we think about a lot and talk about a lot. That's what it feels like, that timeless intimacy of friendship. So in this conversation, we bring you right into the middle of that intimacy and we talk about the fullness of midlife, the dance that we're all doing in midlife, and the practice of holding the complexity of your 40s without emotionally freaking out all of the time. Maybe some of the time, but not all of the time. And the relief in the realizing that there is no there. And also that we've been taught to chase so many external shiny things, and that by 40, the jig is kind of up. We're realizing these shiny external things won't fill the holes in our hearts, but what will? That is exactly what we're talking about in today's episode. So settle in, grab your headphones, and welcome to the portal, babe. Okay. Do you remember the first time we met? I'm like, I don't want to say no. I think so. Yes. I think that you were staying at an Airbnb and you had just given your husband breast milk so that you could be at an Airbnb by yourself.
Mm-hmm. And we met up for coffee. Yeah. And Hudson.
We met.
Yeah. But that was it was about 4 years ago right now. I think it was January 2022. Does that track for you?
It does.
Yeah. And you know why I know this? Because the reason we met, because we had both I think you got a lot more benefit out of this program. We had invested in, call it like an online MBA for creative entrepreneurs program. And that was just in an era of my life where I made a series of poor investments in my business, as one does. And so, yeah, I remember that date and season very specifically. So yes, but you actually, I got you out of that investments. I'll take it.
There's so much even in that meeting. Like the first thing that comes to mind is like all the different, I mean, so much about female friendship and what that looks like in this moment in our lives, in our midlife, as we enter our midlife. And then also like the different portals we've gone through since then, because when we met, we kind of clicked professionally. Like we're both in similar adjacent spaces, and that's what brought us together initially. At the time, I don't even know, were you married yet? You might not even have been married yet.
Oh, no, I wasn't. I got married that next fall. Yeah, in the fall of 2022.
And like you didn't have children, and we were really young. We were like 35, 34, 36, 36.
36.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so since then, like we kind of came into the portal of like our similar professional life and that kind of adjacent nature there. And then like, you know, then we clicked into a portal of like being able to talk about our relationships and being able then to, as you emerged into motherhood, like that became another thing that we got to connect on. So I don't know. I feel like even in the short time I've known you, we've traveled through many portals together.
That's so true. It's funny. I mean, because time is it being 2026. And then I know everyone says this, but it's like, but I feel like there was 2019 and then like everything after that. And so, yeah, a lot has happened in those years. It's so interesting for you to comment on the fact that I wasn't married yet, because I kind of had just assumed that in my head, and sort of shows me how young, almost emotionally I was when we met. I remember meeting you, and I mean, you had 2 kids at this point, but your youngest, Georgie, was still quite young. I mean, to the point that you were breastfeeding. And it's funny now, because I just went through my first year of motherhood, and like we talked a lot about breastfeeding. I know that, well, he was younger than 9 months because that was when he stopped breastfeeding. Yeah, I was so young in a sense. And in some ways that feels really far away. But I remember coming to you and being like, how are you making your work with motherhood? And well, now we have a whole different frame for that, given the nature of our friendship and where we're at in life. But yeah, I was nervous. I was nervous to have a kid. And now it's literally, I got on this call today and I was like, I'm so tired. Because I'm doing the dance. I got a little one, and we're fortunate. We have lots of help. But life is just very full, and my work is, it's getting done. It's getting done, but in a totally different way.
I think I just have this appreciation now for the fullness of midlife, like even more so than I did when we first met just a couple years ago. I'm like, whoa, full plates, full plates. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's like kind of not room. So I was just chatting with my husband, because we have a little bit of like a musical chairs. And I know you have this all the time on Saturday, because I have to go down to the city for work. And then his parents, who were supposed to come from Saturday to Sunday of the weekend to help out with Jude, are now coming Friday to Saturday because we have this snowstorm coming in again. Right. So now they're leaving Saturday. Okay. Well, my husband, who works a 9 to 5 and then also gigs as a musician on the weekends, has a gig then. So it's just like this juggling and this dance of trying to maneuver, getting me back in time because my own mother isn't, and this 1 hour where the child goes to bed. And there was this part of me that wanted to be like really upset about that. And I'm like, there just isn't room. Like the plate is full. And
I can't have feelings.
Yeah, like there's just not. And I actually, in midlife, I actually think there's merit to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a emotion. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, it reminds me of like early COVID days when we had one kid and there was so much struggle. And like it's all relative, right? Because we were safe, we were relatively healthy, all the things. But like Sam just said, looked at me, it was like, no bad days. And it was just this acknowledgement that like, as challenging as this is, we just can't be like, this is a bad day. We just have to kind of keep going.
Yeah. Like, and perhaps this will be a direction or a combo, who knows, but right. I am intimately aware of how I have, and it's work I'm really steeped in right now, suppressed certain emotions, my own emotional body, call it the truth of my being, blah, 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 over my life. And one of the greatest gifts of midlife in this age is that all of that starts to shift and blossom and bloom and we come more into being. Most we're become more aware of the ways in which we've, silenced or mitigated or performed in some sense, right? So it's like that is alive and well, but like getting upset over having to deal with that, because there are also like 47 other things that just have to be dealt with. It just has to be done. And I kind of I like this version of myself. It's like, you just can't do that. You just can't go there. You just can't emotionally freak out about that. Because it has to happen. And that feels like a relief in some way.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, yeah, I was just going to say, I know, which is what we say to each other all the time in our voice memos, because our friendship is so driven by voice memos. And I think that's also like a characteristic of like this very back half of 1985, like all of these millennials turning 40, like we're having these friendships that we're forging with technology, which is so helpful. But the voice memo is like the superpower, I feel like, of female friendships in midlife too.
It's my source. Yeah. I loved when you said it so eloquently, Kath, but when you basically said, I was like, the way we talked was as if we were in the 90s and we had, the phone like hugged to our shoulder and ear and the cord like wrapped around us as we're like, I don't know, like chopping a vegetable or like putting away some toys or like tending to our own stuff, right? Like that is how it feels, because there's just very, very limited room right now for me to engage in friendship in an in-person kind of way. And it does happen sometimes. And I've made a point to make that a little more systematic in the new year. But for me, because I want a lot of time to myself for my own creative pursuits and then my own just winding down, there's not much time left. And you've actually been really instrumental in helping me recognize that like, that's okay to be in that season.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm kind of shifting out of it because my kids are a little bit older, but I know that season so much. And I also love, that image of us like wrapped around with the phone cord. So there's like a very, it's totally 2026. And also there's a timelessness, I think, to this connection that we have as friends and as like, and female friendships in general. So I know you so well, people should probably know who I'm talking to right now. So I'm going to roll into the questions. And the first one is like, who are you? What's your name? And is there any like story around your name? How does your name fit into your life at 40? Yeah.
My name is Clara Artschwager. I didn't take my husband's last name, Maldonado, which now I'm kind of like kind of hunger for it. But my dad passed when I was in my late 20s. And he was a pretty famous artist, successful artist. And so there's like an attachment to the last name. I think that identity piece, something I'm kind of sorting out in this season of life. And I used to despise my first name. I just wanted to be like Jessica. I just wanted a name that everyone had or was more familiar in the 80s and 90s. And now I love my name. Yeah.
I feel like you're totally Clara. Yes, I see that. So how would you introduce yourself? First, I want to see if you can like do it without like your resume, like by like that kind of title, and then we can get there.
I think at my core, I am a teacher and a guide. I myself, and I find this term a little bit patronizing, but it feels like the most accurate term, or a little maybe too woo-woo or cheesy, is that I'm a seeker. So I'm very curious as to why we are the way we are and why we do what we do. And I mostly look at that through the lens of relationships, but then our relationships, whether it be romantic, platonic, friendship, professional, bleed into every other area of our lives. So I think that, I could say, and I think you were kind of alluding to this, I could say I'm an executive coach, I'm a writer, but like, I just think I'm a pretty curious person. And I've always been fascinated by what makes us do what we do and feel what we feel. And if we don't want to be doing that, or we don't want to be feeling that, like what drives that behavior, and then how do we change it?
Oh, good. I'm like seeing that as like a specific portal that you and I live inside together in our conversations. And I'm like, wow, we really spend a lot of time in that portal of curiosity and why we are the way we are together, which is like really, I mean, I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it.
Same.
So good. Okay. How old are you? Part one of the question. And then how old do you feel?
Oh, well, I'm 40. I turned 40 in mid-November. So I feel like freshly 40. In some ways, I've always kind of joked that it's funny. Actually, I think my Instagram bio still says 39. And I'm saying this because it's like 39 going on 74. Like I'm a very old soul in the sense that, I don't know, in a jokey sense, like my husband makes fun of me. He's like, you go to bed at 8:30 and you like love Werther's candy. Like you're a grandma. So I do think, I've always like related to characters like Diane Keaton. Oh, R.I.P. Yeah, certain like, older roles of Julia Roberts or Diane Lane, that kind of thing. So I think there's something in me that I think I actually feel 40, but I think 40 was like a really nice age for me to settle into. And I think that like I can feel 45 being like, oh, it's going to be like really ripe. So yeah, I feel 40.
That's good. Well, this kind of bleeds into my next question. And these are the 40 Portal top 10 questions that keep changing a little bit every episode. So with this one, I've asked everyone, what is one narrative, one script that you were given about a woman at the age you are now, so 40, and does that actually map onto your life? Or I'll open this up, Clara, because like, is there an earlier script at an earlier moment where you were like, oh, they told me this, or that's what I thought, and it turned out to be different?
And I'm sure this is probably for most people. It wasn't like, someone came to them and was like, this is what it's going to be like. But because my mom had me at 35, and so when she was 40, I was 5 years old, and my brother was just 1. And my mom it's funny, I just saw her the other day and she got a haircut and I was like, Mom, like my mom has aged beautifully. She is just, frankly, she just is stunning. And so I look back at photos of that era of her and she looks young and vibrant and just stunning. And so I observed, I witnessed a lot of that, obviously. And then my dad, there was a 27-year age difference between my parents. So my mom was 35 when I was born. My dad was 62. Psychoanalyze that how you will. But
I know you are.
Always. But my dad was also like he passed at 89, but he was very young, both of heart and then physically too. I mean, he was just a very like agile, active. And so later in life, I met people who said when they can remember their parents' birthday celebrations when they turned 40, and there was a big sign that said like "over the hill" on some wall of a, I don't know, private room in a restaurant, and that was not my reality at all. So I actually feel like there's so much of my life that is just getting started, and like I'm so excited about the next, honestly, 40 years.
That seems to be a theme coming up, and I say it too. Like, I do feel like I'm just getting started. And so I'm going to hop to a question, which is like, what do you think is still ahead of you? If you're just getting started, like, what's ahead? What can you see?
Well, so
Or let me put it this way, Clara. Sorry, I'm totally interrupting you because I feel like this is a little bit more nuanced. What's ahead of you, but also what were you maybe not ready for until you hit this age and now it's time for it?
Well, so as the older I've gotten, the more I have, like, I would say I've grown a lot in the last 5 years, but a lot of that has to do with that which I can now hold. So what I mean by that, there are certain like reckonings, realizations about my parents, my history, my past, my life, who I am as a person, kind of back to the beginning where I said why I've done certain things, why I feel certain things. And, not to get too into the weeds here, but I think by nature of like a lot of healing, a lot of kind of nervous system integration, like I'm able to hold more complex feelings now, more complex landscapes. And so while that brings me in closer proximity to things like grief and pain, it also brings me in closer proximity to joy and direction and clarity. And so you also know that I spent the beginning of the year, and this was more of a digital detox and organization. And I did it for reasons of just needing to get myself off of some for work reasons, digital subscriptions that I was spending a bunch of money on that were not necessary. But what it ended up doing was bringing me like really close to all of the work that I have spent the last 6-7 years creating. And I was really like quite astounded by that catalog, like the amount of it. But I was also just like, oh, this could be so much better. But not because it's bad, because back to that piece I was talking about before, the lens is just different. And so like, I think, what's to come, I think the thing that I have been like mulling over, marinating on, writing about, talking about, working on thematically, it will remain the same, but through like the evolution of my own character and with that, really my ability to be with, frankly, the more messy, challenging, kind of yucky parts of myself.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I do feel like I have a similar sense of like, wow, like I can only be 40 or I've created so much, and it's only because I've been working on things for so long, 40 years, right? In various capacities. And then you're like, so that gives you a legacy of time that for me makes me feel 40. I'm like, oh yeah, it would have taken me all this time to get to this place. And then, so in that way, I feel like I have some experience that I can see and claim. And then I also can see there's so much that I'm just beginning to understand. And when you said like that I can hold like the complexity of things, like a complex situation now that I couldn't appreciate a couple years ago, that really resonates for me. And I know you don't want to get too much in the weeds, but I'm just wondering if there's like a woman who's listening who's maybe a decade or almost a decade younger than we are at this point. Like, is there something you can give her that like is an example of that, like the maturation of that experience of being able to hold more complexity? And if not, I'm totally putting you on the spot, but
Oh
I don't
no,
know.
yeah,
You're so good at this.
I totally can. I mean, I had a client recently that was like, she literally texted me and she was like, how do you like get rid of grief? And I mean, I smiled dearly, but I was just like, you don't. Like, you wade through it. Like, there's an emotional body here. There's something that needs to be processed and moved. And I think even more so, like, not that I pity, but like, I'm grateful to be on the back half of 1985 and have had a season of my life where the internet and Amazon didn't exist. So, you know, when I interact, and this is mostly through my practice with people that are about a decade younger, when I work with what they're struggling with, and I also think this is just because I was there too at that point. And this is why I think people are like, like everyone talks about 40 and then everyone is talking about 50. They're just like breath of fresh air. Because there's this fixation. There's this like, if I can just get to like, you know, this point in my relationship or meet this person or have my job look this way or have my home look this, like if it just gets to this point, then like, oh, it'll be good. It'll be good. And that's very human in a sense, right? Like I still have feelings like that, but they're so much less pronounced. And so I guess I would encourage people to be in the muck more, to be in the amorphous muck, and that like it is not just like radically normal, but necessary. And I think, you know, a decade ago, and I think there are many 30-year-olds there, especially for listeners of this podcast, probably it's like, you're working so hard. I mean, I was in startups and I was in, you know, living in New York, and I just was like thriving off of all of that. And it was great. Like it was a season completely, and it was fun and it was exciting and I had like so much more energy. But I also realized how I was like numbing a lot by always kind of buzzing like a little bee or darting around like a little mouse. And again, I think that's part of that season of life. But this stillness and perspective that comes with a decade later is like, and that we've talked about this before, that there's like no there. Like, yeah, like I'm going to wallpaper like my office. We're going to redo the outside of our house. I'm going to make more money this year now that I'm not on maternity leave. And like all that like will be good and great, but I'll still be in the same emotional state. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh my God. It reminds me of this conversation this morning. So Georgie gets up. I'm downstairs. I'm doing my quiet morning pages. Like I got up before my kids. That's a victory because they usually get up so early. And it's January right now. So it's really dark until like almost 7 a.m. And he like lays down on the couch and he's like, I want to watch a show. And I'm like, no, you're not watching a show. You're going to lay here. You know what you're going to watch? The sun is rising right out these windows. Like watch it. And then, oh my God, how did we get there? Let me see if I can think of it. Oh my God, somehow we're talking about the holes in our heart, right? And I was like, how do you feel it? And he's like, money? I'm like, oh my God, you're 4. I was like, no, Georgie. And he goes, toys? And I go, no, Georgie. And I go, what belongs in your heart? And he goes, love. And I'm like, wow, these moments are happening. Like this search. And this just reminded me, like, there's no there. Like we're searching so far outside of ourselves, especially like in these like becoming years of adulthood where we're like really trying to figure everything out. We're pushing, we're looking. Is it there? Is it there? Is it there? Is it that? And like, oh my God, but it's like such a human thing. Even like at 4, I'm having this conversation with my kid.
Yeah. And listen, I love that so much. Money, toys.
Money? I don't even know what money is.
Listen, this is not to say, last night in my mind, I was like, this probably is what kept me up. I was like, you know what? You know what would make all the difference? If I just found someone and like, oh, and then in my mind, I'm like, okay, like I just need to make a little more money so I can find someone who can deliver like 2 dinners and 2 to 3 lunches for my husband and I. Like if we just like chop off those meals each week, that like dinner and the whole evening dance and everything will be like, oh, just that won't be a problem, which is like not true. And yet like I'm going to strive for that. I would still like to have that service. But then it'll get filled with something else. And it just it's kind of like I was, I don't know what I was saying at the beginning of the call. It just, none of it feels like such a big deal anymore. And that is freeing.
Can we circle back to this exact topic in 10 years and see where we are on it?
I hope I'm a lot better.
Yeah, I think we'll see. But
I also hope I have a chef.
I want that for you so much. That's good. But
I just want staff. I just want staff.
It won't fill the hole in your heart because only love belongs there. Okay, so like this kind of, there's a question we're hovering around that I asked everyone, which is like, what is the one thing that your 10 years ago self, which you talked about her, would be surprised to know about you today?
I was laughing, Amanda. I was going to be like that she has 2 dogs. No, we just talk about it. I tell you how much I hate my dogs. I don't hate them. They're literally in their room with me right now. I don't hate them. My child's first word will be dog. But I just tell you, I complain to you about them because you don't like animals.
I'm not a dog person. I'm sorry. We're going to lose half our listeners. I'm not a dog person. But if you know me, you know that. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Mm-hmm. I really just threw you under the bus on your own podcast.
It's okay. No secrets here. No secrets here.
What? I think, oh my God, that it's this good. Like, so my husband and I sold our house over the summer, and then the fall, we moved into a new house. And it's wonderful in the sense that like we were very limited on space and we went from a little space to a lot of space. But we moved into a like early 2000s, like bordering on McMansion. I use that for frame because I feel like everybody can visualize one, minus the title mansion. I actually shared that with a friend. She was like, technically square footage wise, your house isn't big enough. And I was like, that's good to know. But there's an element of that, dare I say, a little like, oh, we moved here. Like we did this. We lived in that alley. We didn't move to the old farmhouse, the old classic farmhouse. And yet the ease and the comfort and the joy that we feel here as a family is it is delightful. Like you walk into it is a happy home here. Like it is happy and it is sweet and it is warm, minus the times we're yelling at the dogs. It's just a good time. It's just cozy and sweet and comfortable and a really nice place to be. And so there was an element of needing to get over my ego to access that place, as you can hear in the way in which I talk about the style of the home. and I'm even holding back right now, being like, blah, 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 blah. Like we're gonna redesign it. It won't look, the vinyl siding will go, right? It's like, ooh, like, that part is still alive and well, but that we allowed ourselves to have this, and that it's really sweet. It's just really sweet.
I feel like I'm connecting the dots of what you're saying. And it's like when we reach this age, God willing, like it's not that we have things figured out. It's like maybe that we can even just see our own bullshit a little bit more. And yet, like sitting amongst that bullshit, it doesn't derail us in such a great, or it has the potential. Maybe sometimes I still get derailed, but we can find our way back in a steadier way. I don't know.
Well, you were the one that I texted the other day, and I was like, what does it mean to be like delighted by the things that you already own? And you were like, I think it means you're content. And I was like, oh yeah, like there's a contentedness to this age, like to my life right now, that is wonderful.
There's a bizarre connection that I keep making around that word. It's not bizarre. It's so relevant. And it's like something we've already talked about, is that content is the same spelling as content. And I'm just like, right. I'm just wondering, is like the more content we're fed and create ourselves, like that we lose our ability to feel content. This is something I'm playing with.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be I had a lifestyle blog in my 20s, which I don't regret. It's very good. And it landed me time with Ina Garten. So, I will never regret it. But it was a food blog. But I would say the practice of turning my life into content. Now I produce like a podcast every week. I produce a newsletter every week. And much of that is about my life, or more so teaching these days on relationships and that kind of thing. But the need to turn everything into content is like, it's like the volume is way turned down. It's so turned down. And along with that, my consumption of content. So yeah, like my life is a lot quieter. And I do think that I do think there is a correlation with how content I feel.
Oh, good. I have two questions. I'm going to ask you just one. Let's see. What do I want to ask you? I'm going to ask you this one. What pisses you off about how women in their 40s are represented or marketed to or portrayed, or what are you, when you look, what are they getting wrong?
This is kind of a hard one for me, because I could see how I'm like, I've been spending a lot less time on social media. So fortunately, I'm enduring less marketing. My mind is led to something like Botox, right? Where it's like, like the way the preservation of youth and how that's paramount. I feel fortunate in that, and this comes back to my mom and my parents, that like that evolution happened really beautifully and was kind of celebrated. And so I don't mean to kind of like avoid the question and be like, oh, nothing bothers me. Because well, there are definitely things that piss me off, but I feel fortunate in that I have a pretty kind of strong foothold when it comes to this is what works for me.
But so I'll ask you the question I wasn't.
Can I add one thing in there?
Yeah.
I also feel like, because this is what I'm aware of, I'm like a white, blonde, thin female, like I'm also I've also been fed a lot as like, this is valuable. Do you know what I mean?
I think we need a whole separate episode on that. Part two.
I'm just saying, I feel the need to toss that in there. What were you going to ask me?
No, I mean, I won't ask you the other one, which is like, I think I mean, and this is going to like keep coming out over the season. It's like this idea of appearance and like the glorification of youth and a certain type and whether you fit into it or not and how that shifts as we age. Like there's so much there to talk about and how we are seen or not seen. I mean, there's so much there. And so I think we're just dipping our toes in the water, but maybe you'll come back and talk about that because I want to dip into the 40 portal wisdom. I picked out a question for you. It's actually not even a question. This is, so, in the 40 portal, I'm asking everyone to submit wisdom. It started with the 40 women who came to my birthday party and you did not come. You were at home with your babe and like, but you were there in spirit. You were such an inspiration for this project. And I brought this blank notebook and I asked the women who were under 40, like, what are the questions that you're living? What are the open questions? What are the dreams, the desires, the longings that you want to put into this book? And maybe we'll like get some inspiration and wisdom back on from the other women here who are over 40. And I asked the women who are over 40 for their wisdom, what they've learned and earned and burned. And I wanted all of it. And this conversation that started happening in the book was so robust that I just kept asking more people for their input. And this is submission. And I think, Clara, this is like beyond the scope of us because this is actually a submission from someone who's in their mid 60s. But this is your wheelhouse. So I'm going to read it. And whatever comes to mind, like, I just want you to go there and spend a couple minutes on that. Okay, so this is what she wrote. She's in her mid 60s, 65. I wish I had been told I did not have to be married to be a successful woman. I married 1 year out of high school in 1979, and it was a disaster. 3 years after that marriage failed, I got married again because that is what I was supposed to do. Disaster again. The threshold that I am now crossing is wondering if my husband really loves me or he just wants someone to cook for him. I have feelings of wanting to escape my life and live alone. At 65, well, now I am planning on making the absolute best of the last quarter of my life. I plan on living a long, healthy life.
So, I feel like I need to clarify my work a bit, like the space that I live in. So like if you Google me, you go online, it says I'm a dating and relationships coach. And that's why at the beginning of the call, I said, I really see myself as more of a teacher and a guide. And it's an interesting role and space to be in because I have learned, a lot of people think I'm a matchmaker, which I'm not. Like,
I never thought that about you. Yeah.
God, I'm like, that would just be a joke. But then I think there's also kind of an assumption that I have a belief about marriage, right? Kind of to what this woman is saying, that she was like, I was told. And I don't actually. While people come to me from that space of, they're stuck. They're either dissatisfied in their marriage or their long-term relationship, or they're not meeting and connecting with anyone. The root, and this also kind of goes back to earlier parts of our conversation, has nothing to do with it. It's like we got to look way, way back. And I am so interested in the way back. And so it sounds like this woman, she's touching on that, right? She's like, this is what I was taught. Like, this is the narrative I was fed. And it was like, she just kept kind of like, I have to imagine too, in like the different marriages that it was like, well, maybe there was something in me that made it so this relationship didn't work. And, a pattern is a pattern is a pattern. But I think that one of the questions I ask people when they reach out to work with me is, I'm like, why? Like, why do you want to do this? Because I'm much more interested in them having a reckoning with themselves than I am them. The relationship is the byproduct, if that's what they choose it to be. It's like, I actually I don't need to have any say in that because it's like that foundational work. And then what follows from there in terms of like who they understand themselves to be and what they embody. So many things could be a byproduct of that: a child, a relationship, a move, a new job, a career change, et cetera, et cetera. And so it sounds like what excites me about her words and her note is that it sounds like she's going to spend like the rest of her life with herself. And I think that it takes time. And we've spent a lot of time talking about this. There's a lot of value in having a very dear friend who you can speak intimately with about the challenges of marriage and have that person understand that and hold that, very maturely and dearly. But I think that, sure, yeah, like, the pressure to get married and have your life look a certain way has definitely waned, but we are still at the end of the day. Because I see this in people. People come to me all the time. I don't feel like I need to be married, but I want to share my life with something. Like we're mammals, we're animals. Like we want to connect, we want to build, we want to create something together. We want to be in community and with people. And I think that like, how do we do that while also holding on to ourselves? And obviously like the role, when she says like, does he love me or does he just want me to make him dinner or food? Right. I think that, in the same way that a lot of systems are being torn down right now, I think that I kind of wonder if we're in our 40s now and maybe folks even more that are in their 30s, it's like, is there a way to be in relationship without losing ourselves? And that's a question I live all the time. And it's a practice I embody all the time. And some weeks are better than others.
Oh my God. I love that you said like there's so much what did you say about her question? There's so much, not possibility, but that's what I'm thinking now. Like there's so much to unpack here. All the stories we were given, all the things we were supposed to do. And like also the fact that we put ourselves, whether it's the choice to have children or the fact that we have children or not, the work we do, are all the different containers of like how we get to learn about ourselves, is so fascinating to me. And then also that, midlife is a chunk, God willing, in the middle, and we're just entering it. And it's like at any span in this several decades long chunk, you can say like, no, that is not that did not work. That is not for me anymore. And I am choosing something different. And I think that there's like a lot of that taking off the things that don't fit anymore. That's like possible once you get to this point. And it's not necessarily a chronological thing, but it can be.
Well, but I think it's because you've quite literally lived more life. Like you see life is very uncertain and very unpredictable, and that very hard things happen. You have seen things fall apart. You have felt things fall apart. I mean, I think, I know I feel like you might be a little bit more ahead in this regard, but it does tend to be a season where people start to get divorced. Right. And so like there are some big ruptures. I'm sure you feel it in like, how old is Lou now? Is he 8?
Yeah, 8.5.
Yeah, like I'm sure it's just such an age for separating and individuating. I mean, they're always individuating, but like, once, well, I feel like we've just at 15 months entered the space of individuation, ish. Right. But it's like, yeah, like there are just more ruptures. And I think it's very, listen, I hope to God that my husband and I are together for the rest of our lives. But there are a lot of things that would be completely outside the realm of divorce that could change that. And that's a terrifying thing to confront. But I think whether we say those words out loud or we just acknowledge them internally, like you're just more aware of that. And so then it makes everything else more precious, whether there's vinyl signing involved or not.
That's good. That's good. It can still be precious. What is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Strip the vinyl siding. It's good.
Strip the vinyl siding. Dear God. Dear.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah. No, go finish with that. Finish with that.
I'm just excited for her. I think that her words are so beautiful. I had a client weeks ago say to me, how do you, and she was speaking about an apartment. She's like, how do you know what to commit to? How do you know what's worth, painting the walls and hanging art? And it's like, you don't. You do for a while. And then maybe that will change. Like that's the only constant. Change. It's really cool. She's inspiring.
So good. Okay, I already feel part 2 of our conversation coming, but I think that is so much goodness for now. Thank you. Thank you, Clara. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the episode, for listening to this conversation with Clara and me. If the episode resonated with you, I want to invite you to something. Clara and I talked about doing inner work in community and how the reckoning with yourself, it doesn't have to be done alone. And that's exactly what I am creating this June. I have been hosting women's retreats for 12 years, but this retreat is the first explicitly portal focused. We are not being shy about it. It is designed to meet women right at the thresholds of their own becoming, not be shy about the transformations we're going through, but to sit with them, to listen to them, and to begin to tell the story of our own deep portal moments together in real life. So I'm gathering a small but mighty group of women in the Hudson Valley for the first portal retreat this June 17th through the 19th, 2026, 3 days to sit with yourself, to sit together, to sit with other women in this midlife moment who are also deeply committed to the work of becoming more and more themselves, to hold the complexity together, to do the dance, and also to get some rest, to fill our own cups. I know that's what I'm craving. I know that's what a lot of us are craving, this inner work in real life, in community, together. Space is limited. It's already starting to fill up. I have a few spots left. To learn more and register, please visit the40portal.com/retreat. Okay, I think that's enough for now. There is so much more to come. Thank you so much for simply being here. I'll see you next time.